Please subscribe to this channel, share it and subscribe, comment, like, and share it to your network. Thank you so much.
Yes, I'm a Golden is my dad's nickname. Yeah, so I'm South Sudanese, I live in Melbourne. And yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Dan. And again, my name is Majok Wutchok, and I'm a founder of what I call Mac Talks, and I also do publications on what I call the BP Publishers. So I myself, I'm a writer, and I'm also South Sudanese advocate in public health. So I work for the local government in Western Australia, educating people on health issues and all that. But part of my community involvement is just to navigate through and see the challenges that are facing our community. And given the fact that our community, is one of the fastest growing community in Australia, among the other cultural diversity communities, we've got the younger, huge generations, which is really coming up. And I believe there are a lot of good children who are really coming out of this community, and just only a small minority that are really, skip out of the way. But again, we've been facing a lot of media challenges, and we've been juggling with them and all that. So among the other cultural and linguistical diversity communities in Australia, the South Sudanese community is one of the fastest, as I said earlier on. And we see a lot of young people coming out of it, growing very fast into professional sports, and others are really doing well in their careers as well. So we have a huge young teens populations in Australia, with Melbourne hosting the larger population of South Sudanese. So what do you think are some of the major concerns that are facing a lot of the youth? Do you think the parents and the community leaders are neglecting the youth challenges in Australia, or is it the government in the states where all these young people are who are really failing them in their ventures?
Yeah, I think to me, how I see it is basically we're crossing over into identifying ourselves, and the crisis that are happening with the young people right now, especially in Melbourne, is basically that trying to understand who they are, and we've walked away from the fact that we're South Sudanese, yes, but now we're identifying ourselves as South Sudanese Australians, and what that means, that's where the struggle is. And it's, everyone is struggling with that, because the parents are still also trying to identify themselves with that, what it means to be a South Sudanese Australian, and what it means to live in Australia within this multicultural setting. And so some people see it as a neglect, like the children are being neglected. But how I see it is that we're all struggling. The parents are struggling with that, trying to create an identity. The children are struggling, trying to create an identity. And then, the gap between the parents and the children get widened, because the children, they've got that access to school. They can pick up from their friends, and they go faster than the parents. So where the crisis is happening is the fact that we're still grounded within the South Sudanese culture and within South Sudanese traditions, and that's walking out of the house as a South Sudanese person and going into the streets, like trying to identify yourself with the mainstream community. There's a struggle there.
It is pretty concerning. Thank you so much for answering that. And Yes, you have identified the key issues that has been conflicting, between the parents, the younger people, trying to find their identity, which is the reality of the fact that a lot of parents are pretty much still holding back into what they call an African traditional beliefs, and looking at the younger generation, which is really coming up, trying to navigate through to their school systems and become part of the mainstreams is a challenge. So later on, when the young people, come back from their studies, coming back to their houses, they come and find some different cultural identity conflicting in the house, which is become a big tensions. And I'm glad that you have touched bases, and this is what I wanted to hear, from people like yourself who grew up down here. Thank you for that. So, as you are a young person yourself, who grew up here, and other, and you might have grew up with other young people who might be your siblings, your cousins, and your other friends from the close community. So, what are the key issues and the challenges that you might think might hindering your access to the services, or your access to the career projection? Like you wanted to assess something, and then it's becoming harder for you to assess, due to some other factors that might be able to, obstruct you on the way. So, what do you think are the challenges that you have went through, and that might be the same issues that other young South Sudanese are facing today?
I think media plays a big part in how how we carry ourselves, and the projection of our issues is a little bit out of proportion sometimes. Even like you mentioned at the beginning about there's a small number that might go the wrong way, and the way that it gets portrayed is a little bit out of the way, out of hand, a little bit out of proportion. That let's say it creates this mindset in the community of prejudice that this is who we are. That's in the South Sudanese, let's say one apply for a job, and once it's discovered that in the South Sudanese, even though in Australia it's illegal to discriminate someone on the basis of their cultural background, the prejudice is still there. It's I think it's one of my favorite writers talks about the burden of nationality. And so our nationality has become a burden to us. But the reason why it's a burden to us is it's not something that maybe we contribute a little bit, but in reality the media has portrayed it out of proportion. So it makes it very difficult for us to live in Australia, because we can't build ourselves with a bad image on the streets.
Why do you think the South Sudanese community has become a big target of the Australian mainstream media, while the South Sudanese community is not equivalent to the 1% of the populations, given the fact that other nationalities are emerging as well?
I think probably we're very outspoken people, and that's basically we are as a people. We don't just sit back and twiddle our thumbs. We like to face. We like to take opportunities, and we've done that probably in every way, and to the point where you find that the kids taking that opportunity of freedom and misusing it. So it's having a very loud community, a very young, loud community. It creates the attention, and we've done that. We've really created the attention because we're young and loud, and it might have been easier to be loud on different things. But our message become loud on things like crime, where people see that majority of South Sudanese kids in Melbourne are committing crime, but it might be a very small number. And also we stand out like a sore thumb because we're black. It's probably we're the blackest of all the communities that are here in Australia.
Exactly.
We've got to stand out. That is a fact that we can't deny. We will stand out. So if you see 5 South Sudanese walking the street, they will stand up. Tall, black, strong, loud. That creates attention. So I think that really does play part in the whole scheme.
Great. Given the fact that young South Sudanese are pretty much very outstanding in what they do, there is a huge, large number of the sportmen and sportwomen in the Australian football club and in the Australian soccer club. And this has built a huge network of professionals in South Sudanese community among the other African communities. You're looking at the basketball as well. The South Sudanese from Australia have emerged, and given the fact they have a lot of them moved from Australia to the NBA in the United States. Why is the media not portraying this as their positive image all the time, given there are over 40 young professional South Sudanese in sport and in the fashion industry? We're becoming so dominant and right in such kind of areas, but you don't hear much news and much noise being made of air there. Why do you think is that?
I think it's easier to sell bad news. It's very easy to sell, things like when you see, like I was there when the fight happened, the one that shut down the South Sudanese basketball tournament now for good in Melbourne. I was there, and when you see it on the news, it makes it a bit more interesting. People get interested in that there's all these Sudanese kids running on the street, and the videos are running after them, and so it's easier to sell that than to follow South Sudanese basketballer who has struggled so much to actually get to America. Like I know kids that stay up late just so that they can match the time with America, to talk with their coaches, to sell themselves like that. So the kids there actually need their stories to be told, so that someone can sponsor them. They're not getting their stories told, but the one that small number that is we see on the video is running on the street, and the media running after them. They're the one that are getting their name out. So the opportunities in sport especially, it's so easy for South Sudanese to dominate it. Very easy, especially here in Australia. But it probably will come. But at the moment, we're not seeing that. That's why you find all these basketballers, all these kids that are so talented in basketball and music, trying to find opportunity somewhere else. And America is good at this. America is good at taking our citizens, so Australian citizens.
Because America has been very diverse for so many years, more than Australia.
Yeah. Like the citizens of Australia feel dependent in their own country, find opportunities outside, and so they will sacrifice so much. They'll save up the money. They'll for years. They'll shoot their videos. They'll put it on YouTube. They'll contact. And these are very young kids. These are very young, like high school graduates, doing all this by themselves. And It's but it's not very interesting to the media. It's not interesting to the news.
That's right. That is right. Okay, then since 2007 until today, there has been many unaccounted for death among the youth across Australia in the South Sudanese community. What do you think is causing such heartbreaking events in the youth numbers?
Well, at the moment, there's a whole issue of the mental problem, the mental health issue. That's the biggest thing right now across all boards. But that's not something you just wake up overnight. Like I can't just wake up tomorrow and say I have mental issues. It builds up. It builds from something. And with our kids, those things have been building up from starting from families, starting from our families where kids feel isolated within their own family. The only people that will accept them are the friends of the streets. And when they gather, it's like the young people. There is no adult among them. When young kids gather, they make decisions according to their age, and those decisions come with their energy. And that energy is what we see like as a gang time.
Yeah.
They're kids. That's what they do because there's no adult among them, and it leads on from the fact that they're being isolated from their own homes. They're not fitting in their own house. And so they come to the point where a point of desperation of needing to belong somewhere. And there is someone they can belong with is another child that feels isolated from their own house. They will come outside, they'll meet, and they'll so those things have been leading and have been contributing to the whole factor of building these little gangs. Because in Melbourne, there's been a few that have been just killing each other. Just attacks, attacks one of my cousins got attacked recently, just coming out of a barber shop, and they just attacked him. But then these are other Africans. So if people didn't jump into them or kill them, the same thing happens in other places where the young South Sudanese in these small groups are killing each other. But one of the things that we can't really ignore are the majority that is committing suicide because of these built up mental issues. Isolation is a big problem. Being isolated in your own family and being isolated by the community. That is something we cannot ignore because as the saying goes, no man is an island. We can't isolate people and think that they will be still normal. So we're driving our own people crazy. Our own children, we're driving them crazy. But some of these deaths are building up from a lot of angles, and one of the biggest things is people being isolated.
Wow. Do you believe most youth problems usually started from family relationship with parents and the friendship other than the family members? Or either in the school, for example, the bullying, you talk about the mental health issues. So this is where the bullying come in, discriminations again is another things. So do you think all these are factors that are contributing to the mental health issues of the young people in the community?
Yeah, these are contributing things, and we have to be realistic with how we treat each other, especially how parents treat their children. It's not about just giving them gifts and filling their rooms with, because some kids walk out of that they still walk out of that. They from a very nice house with all the video games. They still walk out of that because they know there's no realistic view of their future. If parents do not have a realistic, they have to be realistic in terms of what they actually provide their children. And love is something that we can't, they will never, if a child can't buy it. If a child is not feeling loved at home, they'll walk out regardless of all the video games you buy them. So it's they will look for that acceptance somewhere else. They will look for it somewhere else. And in schools, some schools are very good in terms of looking at this very fragile children. And to be realistic, our children are very fragile. We're not calling for a very, very special treatment, but we're calling for an understanding of the fact that we're dealing with a very fragile generation that is being faced by a lot of challenges, including bullying at school or discrimination at school, and on the streets and in the shops. You go into the shop, you get followed by the security guard. I was in the chemist just recently here in that line, and the security guard literally followed me. I had my mask on and I was wearing a black jumper, so I did appropriately. In his mind, in his Prejudice mind, I looked like a gangster. So he followed me every aisle I went to. The guy was following me. I nearly played a bit of a trick that I saw in one of the comedy shows one day. Just try to run and try to see if you can grab something and see what they do. But it is very sad to see that kind of treatment does discrimination and prejudice and all that without an understanding of the fact that there are already our struggles these people are going through.
So it's becoming a community-wide segregation, when you just get followed, or when you just jump into a shop and then somebody would think you're just part of that crew and all that. And this is the most challenging, and that's need a re-education, in the mind of majority of the Australians. And for people, this is how the media actually put the community toward that, and that is a quite challenging bit of it. So, in reality, you have touched most of the key important issues facing the community today. It is not the young people themselves, but you find the mental well-being is a quite challenge among the older adults at the moment. Recently I was told there is a huge network of homelessness in the street of Melbourne, in the heart of Melbourne itself, where young people, the older people as well are homeless. And I was so surprised to see such kind of shocking events unfolding in the community. Is that something that you have come across?
Especially around Dandenong area. And as I said before, it's the same thing even with the mental health issues. This homelessness is people that didn't just decide overnight that I'm going to be homeless today. It builds up to the point where of that desperate situation where they find themselves sleeping in the park. And it's the lack of support and lack of understanding and the lack of direction. Where the services might be there, how am I going to know? Because no one understands it. It comes down to that. No one understands that of what is actually happening to me. And Yeah, homeless, yes, they're there they're on the street. But what led to that? That's the problem. How they ended up there on the streets of Daniel and sleeping in the park. That's the key issue that need to be addressed. And it's a growing thing. It's around now. It's a growing thing where you just even in the city, you walk into the city and it's so heartbreaking when you see a very young South Sudanese person walk up to you and ask you for $2. Very heartbreaking. But it's a trend and it's already rolling, and it could get worse.
That is very heartbreaking. Do you think lack of mentoring and the support network is the cause of all these challenges among the South Sudanese people?
I think it's a lack of understanding, because they need to be understood. These kids come from a very challenging background, and their background, if no one cares enough to want to understand that, even mentor them, because even the mentor themselves have to put themselves in the shoes of this young person, understand exactly what they're going through, and the mentor them from that. So you find the kids will say it themselves, no one understands me, and that's the big point. Like people might think it's just the child's mind talking, but if no one cares enough to understand what is happening, the threat they get, not just from the other South Sudanese, from other people, from all these issues that they should not be facing as their children. Those things need to be understood first.
Right. Again, looking at these volatile situations of the young people, because I will frown and keep on going around with all these young people problems. Given the problem of these young people, majority of them, finding issues since the migration started and the South Sudanese community started arriving in the early 2000s, up to the late 2000s. Do you think the lack of the governmental lack of access navigations and how and an educational access, on how Australia works and the system in Australia wasn't oriented properly in a way that the families who came from the refugee backgrounds would understand better. So do you think the child protections and the security agencies like the police have actually have a huge hand in mishandling these fragile young people who came out of the traumatized war parents?
Yeah, those agencies they come from a very westernized training that has very well established. So here we are coming. They walk into a house, and they were very frightening people. That they're very heavy-handed, where they can walk into a house and literally pull it apart, because it's not being about a child anymore. It's become about the authority. They're not there to try and protect the child. That's in paper it looks nice that we're here to protect the child, but in reality, if you destroy the family, you've destroyed that child. And the police, on the other hand, there are some that have really tried. They've tried very hard, like around Fitzroy in Melbourne, there was a policeman there that actually, I think from what I heard, he went to South Sudan to try and understand the background and all this. But you know, if you go to Western suburbs in Melbourne, it's a whole different story. It's about authority. It's about power. It's about these guys showing the South Sudanese we're in charge. And that like we can't build Australia like that. I don't think we can build Australia using force and showing our muscles. The Australia that we've come to learn was not built like that. Why is it different to us? Why is it that the power has to be the authority has to be so heavy-handed on our kids, destroying them? Right now in Melbourne, the number of South Sudanese kids that are in jail, it's shocking. It's shocking. In and out. That they become, that's their life. And so the role these agencies play is enormous. It's huge to the point of really, it's not funny anymore. It's not fair.
That has been the huge challenge, and that has been the major fight that people like myself have been involved as well to tell off the Department of Child Protection. You know, you cannot continue to impose the rules of laws that were established, you know, during the stolen generations. So those kind of rules of laws need to be abolished, you know, and construct a new policies, you know, that bring the new Australia, you know, and the new migration into these kind of rules. You know, it has become quite challenging, and seeing those young people, you know, being snatched up from their parents and all that. And some of the families have really been broken, you know, and that's heartbreaking, you know, to just listen to these kind of stories. The reality of the fact is that the culture play major roles in our upbringing our own children. But in this scenario, do you think the culture, especially the South Sudanese culture, has played a huge neglecting roles in supporting this young generation to be the future leaders, especially in the big families, because South Sudanese families are made up of a huge network of children. Let's say, for example, one family might have at least 5 children, which is the smallest unit of the family that you might find around. Do you think family planning might be the case to maximize and minimize all these issues happening, so that we can be adequately take care of the children that we could be able to afford?
That's a very big one, and I think part of the answer that I left out in your last questions regarding the support of the government, it comes down to this, where the proper formation of the South Sudanese that arrived in Australia. When we came, we were given 13 weeks. So 13 weeks, we were supposed in that 13 weeks fit in to Australia. And then from there, you're on your right. And so that lack of formation of giving people adequate education about how things work in Australia, especially the education issue. The education. If I have 10 kids, how am I going to afford to pay the school fees? How am I going to feed them? You know, and all these things say the economical system was never really explained to anyone, and to this day, a lot of people don't know like how much it actually costs to bring up one child.
Exactly.
I would say 90% South Sudanese families have no idea how much it costs one child, actually, for you to actually properly bring up one child in this Commonwealth. So it's the issue of family planning. Yes, that's something that the conversation that people will eventually start having. But the importance of the child is still very vague in our heads. Who is the sole carer? Who is the carer? The one that actually, the one that is actually needed by this child, and that's the parent. That is still very vague in our heads. That okay, the school, they spend a lot of time in school, and leaving but the school cannot take care of the children by themselves. It's a communication between the parent and the school. They switch off their phone. Like, I know there are some parents that do that. They know the phone number of the school. If the school calls because there's a problem, they don't want to hear it.
Serious.
And if you can't cooperate with the school over your own child, what else are you going to do really in life?
Wow.
That's the whole reason for you being who you are as a parent is for that child.
Exactly.
So that formation was never really properly done to our families, and it's still no one is doing it.
Wow. That is a sad scenario. Right. Then let's move ahead. Recently, you have strongly came out, with a written document that outlined major events leading to untimely dismissal of the young Kwon Deng. What impact has this event really made to this family? I know it is a hard trending issue, and it is very important that you have spoke out on it.
Whole story is a very tragic story, and you can see where it slips off, like where things just slip off. How Paul ended up on the street. There was a very thin line there, because like at the end, when Paul dies, everyone wants to blame everyone. But the thin line there, where was his child cared for? Yeah, he was getting food, he was getting going to school. But what do we mean about care? What was his methods? So, and even him being on the street, being arrested, was it because he was just tall? He was only 13. You can't just arrest a 13-year-old just because he was walking on the street. And so, Paul's death led, it all led up to his death in the end. But in reality, everyone we have to look out for the kids. We have to look out for their well-being. And even the old man that manipulated the situation, the businessman, he found the opportunity of using these kids, which is, in Melbourne right now, is one of the big things where they're being used to sell drugs, to, do home invasions, break into shops, get the jewelry, go and sell it. They could break into the jewelry store, get all the jewelry, give it to this big dog or the top dog, and they get a little payoff, and then the next home invasion will be planned. So it's a situation that I don't know whether there's not too many people that are aware of it, but it's a trending problem, which leads up to the similar way that Paul eventually dies, sadly.
So sad indeed. So sad indeed, Deng. And 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 I think such kind of events, unfolding such a family, such kind of event, unfolding a family who's trying, you have really outlined, with his older brother, trying his best well, trying to be part of the parenting and all that. So how is his mom now?
So both moms still struggling, mentally. So, and especially, with our community, not really, even the words we use to describe a mentally ill person, that's, to us, you become like a laughing stock. Once you have a mental health issue, it's like, you've totally gone crazy, and people start laughing at you instead of getting that support.
Yeah.
Accepting counseling. You got to talk about what you're going through, and to Paul's mom, it's still it's still a struggle where she can't comprehend the fact that she is just lost to the streets. Not even just the child is dead. It's the last one, the mama's boy, is dead because of this wide neglect and manipulation of our children on the streets of Melbourne. That is something that any parent cannot comprehend, and she will struggle for a while with that issue.
Wow. Do you believe the younger generation in Melbourne and around another part of Australia are becoming the victim of the drug lords and all that, being used to navigate around, and these young people are seeing this opportunity as getting into the world quite easily? Do you think this is the quite challenging factor which is trending now?
It's one of the big things that is trending now, and it comes, it starts off with you being denied the job. Just a simple part-time job that keeps your mind busy after school, make a little bit of money here and there. So if you can't find that, if McDonald's can't hire you, Hungry Jack's, KFC, those places, if they can't hire you at that age when you need to start learning about these things, obviously you'll start looking around because the family's already struggling financially. They can't provide the kids with the other things, their little luxuries things. And so these kids will basically go out and try to find ways to make money. And the drug lords got that opportunity. But there's a child here that needs money and need a job. So they use them. They'll sell marijuana, sell whatever, cocaine, whatever. So anything to get their hands on. And around Richmond, there's a lot of problems that are happening around Richmond from all these issues where the drug lords are out there hunting our kids, using them for their own benefits.
Wow, very insightful, Dan. That is very, very, very insightful. And parents themselves are not aware, and this is part of the neglect. If you go around now telling one of the parents this is the new issue coming up, they won't get it. They will tell you off and all that. But the reality is, yes, you have talked a lot about the economical values, now what the young people, trying to have from their parental roles, Let's say, for instance, if you have 10 children, and you are the father is only working, and the mother might be doing some other part-time job. Still, these kids, when they come out of school, they need after-school activities so that you can be able to engage them, and those cost money. They need a lot of other things, that their age group, needed. But when these kids 10 of them, do you think any parent will be able to afford them, working, earning $800 a week, with, looking rental property is a big thing, mortgage is a big thing, the food is a big thing as well. So the money end up, with all those kind of things, leaving the children, with nothing in their hands, but for them to look for other opportunities. So it's pretty right, these kids, if they cannot get hired, by the fast food restaurants, they might be opting for other chances, which are just available, and that's the reality. So what give you motivation then? What give you this courage and motivation to write, is dismissal? So many people turn out not to speak out, in our community when such kind of event happen.
I think to me, it's something that has been happening over and over. I think it's time that we start having conversations around these issues. That without being afraid that the drug war will hunt me down, because that's the biggest fear. That's the reality. That if I talk about this, they will hunt me down. But when are we going to? How are we going to say it? I said before that this, if my child is not the focus of my being, why am I a parent?
Exactly. So
we can't just let things be as they are when we know they're deteriorating, especially from the very vulnerable people that rely on us for protection, guidance, and for just the basics of life. We can't just keep quiet.
Very, very brave, Dan. That's very outstanding, and it is great. It's great honor, It's great honor to have you you talking to me today, and I've been very, very privileged, going through your document. So one of the key things that I was looking into that is to make a lot of editorials and make sure this document is published as an ebook, and people will be able to look into it. And this is source of empowerment and education, in our community. So a lot of people who are keeping quiet out there will definitely speak up, on such kind of issues. So it has been my honor to have you today on board. And what would be your remark again? Looking at the diverse issues we have been touching today, and this might not be even the last talk we will do. We might be talking a lot because you look to be quite an outstanding guy who has a lot of talks to do to the community. People will be listening to to these issues, and it might be quite educative to other people who are there.
Yeah, I think probably the last thing I would say is probably the more of us that talk, the louder our message is. Right? So we need to be able to stand for each other and stand for our children, and do everything in our power to redirect our story. We have to redirect our story. The media is not going to do it. We have to redirect our story, and the more of us that do it, the higher chances of us rewriting our place here in Australia. And the truth is, this is our country now, and we're not going anywhere. So we might as well, write our place and make ourselves firm in this country and play a part just like every other citizen.
That's very true, and that's the reality, Dan. And because we're not going nowhere, no matter what the media will say all the time, they should know that we belong to this nation and we're not going anywhere at all. And that's the key point, and that's the key strategies, key fundamentals point that we are belong to this country as the same as whoever is around this country. Thank you so much, Dan, for tonight, and I'll be in touch. Thank you. Thank you for watching.
Could you please subscribe, comment, like, and share?